Hi guys, I'm Kasha. Welcome to the channel and welcome to our coffee times together. Today I am here to talk about all of those books that I managed to read in the month of June. Now, June was a month where I kind of struggled a little bit and I only ended up reading 9 books. I mean, 9 books in one month is a really good number, but since I have been also home a lot, I was kind of hoping to have managed to read a couple more books. One of the reasons why I did not read so much is because one of the books that I was trying to read was so dry and so boring, and it took me so long to finish that it kind of nearly put me into a reading slump. But thankfully, when July started, I started reading a book that thankfully I'm enjoying so much that it has avoided me going into that reading slump, and that is Soul Kill Girls. I really am enjoying that book. But anyways, we are here to talk about those other 9 books that I read in the month of June.
It's coffee time!
If you're new here, welcome. I like to do my monthly wrap-ups, rating my books with coffee mugs, and I always start from the lowest to the highest, so we always end up in a good note. The first one, and sadly with only 1 coffee mug, is Blood of Fae by Tom Mohan. Normally I don't rate books that low, but I just couldn't connect with the characters in this book. The plot was messy, it was super repetitive, and it was really boring, so I didn't have no other choice. I really wanted to like this because this is a dark fantasy. We have a girl that one day receives a very mysterious call asking her to run for her life, and she ends up in a town where there's this family that lives there, the Finns, and she dated one of them a couple years ago, and she realizes that they are special, they have special powers, and there is something darker in the woods where they live, and she's supposed to play a big role on all of this. So she, our main character, is kind of like the chosen one, and in a way it kind of reminded me this Finn family to Twilight. I don't know why, but the problem that I had was, like I said, I couldn't connect to the characters at all, so I didn't care what happened to them. The book was really repetitive. I felt like we were not getting anywhere, like past 20% in the book. I just felt it was just the same thing over and over again, and it was not intriguing or exciting or creepy, and I just couldn't, you know, give it more than 1. Next we have They Did Bad Things by Lauren A. Forey. I was really excited initially about this one. This is a new mystery thriller release, and the story sounded so good. We are following a group of 6 students that are sharing a flat in 1995, and after one of the big parties that they did, one of them ends up dead. So we fast forward 20 years later, and the 5 surviving students that, you know, used to share a flat together are all lured into this hotel without them knowing that the other ones are gonna be there, and they also don't know who has lured them into that house. So basically when they get there, shit starts to go down like you would expect, and they're trying to figure out who put them in there because somebody is trying to uncover the mystery of the death that happened 20 years ago. My problem with the book was part the structure, because you have chapters for a lot of different characters. There's a lot of like time hopping, and it made the plot a little bit, you know, harder to follow and harder to get really invested in the story and the characters. At the beginning it was actually, you know, interesting. We have a group of friends that are kind of trying to blame each other. They all have secrets, and we start to unveil those secrets and things that we didn't know about the characters. However, I think the way the book was structured, plus the end, which was horrible, was what definitely killed this book for me. There is a trigger warning for rape, and I don't think that it was handled properly in the book, and that really pissed me off, honestly. Plus the ending has one of the big trope endings of thrillers that I absolutely hate. I'm not gonna say what it is so that, you know, I don't spoil it for anybody that still would like to give this one a try, but I only ended up giving this thriller a 2 coffee mug rating. Next, we are going to talk about my biggest disappointment. Probably it's going to be of the decade, so grab yourselves because we're gonna spill some tea here, and that is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So I love the Hunger Games trilogy. It's one of my favorite YA trilogies, and I was really excited personally when they announced the sequel because I do love a good background story about a villain, and I kind of felt like knowing more about Snow would help me understand the things that happened in the Hunger Games trilogy. So I was personally excited, okay? However, this book was so repetitive, so boring, so dry, that I had to force myself to get through it. If it would have been any other book, I would have probably just DNF'd it, but I really wanted to read it because, like I said, I really enjoy the Hunger Games, so it's something that I just wanted to read. The book could have been at least half this size. We didn't need all of this. It was not necessary. I was hoping to see something that would have purpose, but I just felt like this book had no purpose. There were no twists, no turns, no excitement. There was nothing that made me want to keep reading. The main plot here is basically you follow Snow, and he's in a very bad monetary situation, and he's chosen for the 10th Hunger Games to kind of help the tribute, the female tribute for District 12, Lucy Gray, and he develops a deeper relationship with her, and they become kind of friends, even though he shouldn't because she's a tribute. And that's basically most of the book. That's mostly it, without spoilers basically. But this book was just so unnecessary. Like, it hurts my feelings to say that because I really wanted to love this, but I gotta keep it honest. I'm never gonna lie in my channel. If I hate a book that I thought I was gonna love, I'm gonna tell y'all. And I am so sad about it. Like, I'm about to cry. Like, I'm sad about it, like legit, because I was so excited about this book. But there is like a lot of decisions that our characters make that were BS for me. There is an unnecessary stupid romance in this book, and I don't know, like, I'm mad, okay? I'm mad about it. Like, when everybody was hating it at the beginning because the book was gonna be about Snow, I was like, no, let's support it. I want to know about the villain of the story. It's so cool. But now I'm like, y'all were right. And I had to sadly end up giving the book only 2 coffee mugs. Moving on, we have Dark Flowers by Caitlin Brooke, and this is a YA horror book. I did enjoy this one. This is based on Agatha's School for Girls. This is a school for orphan girls, and we have here 2 best friends, Eliza and Millie, and they are kind of conflicted because of course they want to be adopted, but they don't want to be separated, so they would like to be adopted by the same family, which they know it is something nearly impossible to happen. So they decide that maybe it would be best if they would just try to escape. So one day they are just, you know, wandering around the forest that is next to the school, trying to figure it out how they could escape, when they make a really dark encounter with some creatures, and from then on we follow their story and how that encounter kind of changed them. I really love the exploration of both girls' stories, and I thought it was creepy, it was dark. What I was missing a little bit more was a bit more tension and a little bit more of like a big twist or something that would have happened that would have shook me, but it was still a very enjoyable read. Next, and also with 3 coffee mugs, we have Nothing But Blue by Lisa Jan Claw, and I really enjoyed this one for what it was. So we are following this girl that is walking down the street, and she doesn't remember what happened to her, what she's doing there. She seems to be lost, and She is basically only wearing her clothes, nothing else, no ID, no nothing, and she starts to try to remember what happened to her while also surviving outside without anything. I thought this book was a great exploration about grief and loss and how we all process really traumatic events that happen to us, and also how you learn to move on. However, I felt like the book was more an exploration of that, of grief and loss, than a book with a purpose, because I didn't feel like the book had a specific plot. Like it didn't have a specific end. Honestly, it didn't have like any twist. It didn't have any purpose in that sense. So for me, it was like a study on grief and loss more than a novel with a plot, if that makes sense. But I thought it was really good written, and it brings up really good kind of things to think about your life and the things that we do and what we would do in a situation like the one our main character is going through. But yeah, I really still enjoyed it. It's just I was expecting it to be kind of like a thriller. This is a YA mystery, so I was hoping it was gonna have something like a mystery thriller element to it, but it doesn't. Next, I read the Falling in Love Montage by Sierra Smith, and I gave this one also 3 coffee mugs. This is a new release, a LGBT YA contemporary romance, and I don't know, I was really intrigued about the plot of this book because it has to do with movies and rom-coms, and I thought that would be something really fun to read about, to kind of break all of the mystery thrillers and horror books that I'm currently reading. So I gave this one a try and I really enjoyed it. We are following our main character that is going through a lot. Her mother is sick, she has dementia, and she's kind of dealing with that and also with a bad breakup. So she goes to a party one day and she meets this girl that she thinks is super cute, but she's not ready to open herself up again for love, for emotions. She doesn't want to, you know, love somebody and then have to lose them again like she's used to in her life. And I thought it was such a cute, refreshing, nice summer romance. The 2 girls decide to just basically be together for the summer and recreate famous scenes from popular rom-com movies, and it was kind of like one of those books that it is heartbreaking but also heartwarming, and it kind of makes up for the sadness with really cute and really happy moments as well. So I really did enjoy this one. The next one is a 3.5 coffee mug, and that is The Toll by Neil Shusterman. This is the last book on the trilogy and my last buddy read with Ola. I really did enjoy reading the trilogy with her, and I think it motivated me a lot to finish it because for me, book 3 was not as strong as I was expecting it to be. So the whole trilogy in general for me would be a 4.5, but I had to give this book only 3.5 because it was very dragging for me. It was very slow. The problem with the 3rd book is that there are so many new characters that were introduced between book 2 and 3 that you are all the time jumping between characters, and it is hard to be invested in only someone's story, which makes it harder for you to relate to every single character. And even though it had a new character in this book, Jerry, whom I loved, and it did have really good moments, really good action at times, but for me it was very dragging, and the ending for me it was correct but it was a little bit how do I put this, a little bit of an easier ending, and it didn't have such an impact on me like I was hoping, like for this like big ending. However, the whole trilogy being a YA trilogy, I think is super important. This trilogy has really good messages for young readers, and it's making you think about really important things in life, and also things that are happening currently in the world. And it is so amazing that Neil Shusterman had all of these planned for the trilogy, like so many things that are winks to society as we know nowadays, even though this is supposed to be futuristic, like it's supposed to be set in the future. So I think all of the good messages that this book has is amazing. It's very bold, it's a very daring idea for a YA book. And the last thing that I would like to mention is something that Ola mentioned when we were doing the buddy read, and something that I completely agree with. She mentioned that she probably would have loved this more if this would have been for an adult audience, and I totally get that. And I think that if it would have been for adults and the author would have had, you know, more liberty to express things in different ways, it might have had a bigger impact on me as a reader. But as a YA trilogy, it's still really good, and I think it's a necessary read for everybody. And now we have the last two books, and they are both a 5 coffee mug rating. So even though the rest was kind of just okay, these two books completely made up for the month of June. The first one is Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is so far my favorite Riley Sager book. He writes mystery thrillers, and one of the things that I really like about his books is there is always a twist you don't see coming, and I appreciate that so much. Plus, he does not rely on these basic tropes from thrillers that we've seen done 1,000 times before, so he has become for me an out-to-buy author. In this story, we follow Jules, and she desperately needs money. So she sees that they're offering a job at a super fancy kind of building called Bartholomew, and only like rich people live there, and they're looking for an apartment sitter. So all she has to do is stay in a super luxurious apartment, and she'll get paid for it. So it sounded too good to be true. That's right. And when she moves in there, she's really excited because this is like the best thing that could have happened to her, until she starts to get to know the neighbors, and one of them suddenly disappears without saying anything, and she starts to wonder what happened to her, and starts probably digging deeper than she should to find out the truth. I have to say, I did not see this ending coming. I freaking loved it. And this book was amazing. So if you are looking for a really good thriller, this is the one for you. And let's finish with my favorite read, together with Lock Every Door, from the month of June, and that is Kill Creek by Scott Thomas. This is going to be one of my new absolute favorite horror books of all times. I believe this book was made for horror fans of the genre of horror in general, not just books but also like movies and everything else. This book, like, I just want to reread it again. Like, I legit mid-book tried to find if there was a hardcover copy of these, a limited edition, something that I could buy, because I was already loving it so much. Sadly, spoiler alert, there is no hardcover of this book, which saddens me deeply, and I hope that somebody will release this in hardcover for me, for my OCD collector in me. But in the story, we are following 4 different horror authors that for different reasons kind of need a push to kind of be relevant again. They are struggling, and so one day they suddenly get an invitation to just give an interview. However, there is a twist. The interview has to take place at a haunted house. So they all go to this haunted mansion, and they are, you know, ready to make this interview, but what they don't know is that the moment they enter that house, their lives were going to be changed forever. I read this book as a buddy read with Jason, and we both loved it so much because of all the references, all the winks to horror. Like, we were reading it and we already knew we wanted to reread this. That's how good it was, okay? Also, all of the main characters were super different but extremely interesting, and he had his favorites, I had my favorites, we were rooting for them, and the ending was just fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It felt like a roller coaster of horror movies in one book, and needless to say, 5 out of 5. Alright you guys, so this is everything that I read in the month of June. Let me know down below what is the best book that you have read in the month of June. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next coffee time. Bye!